Hey, good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How was the winter conference?
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. I thought it was really good for meeting members and vendors and having good conversations.
Yeah, it was good.
It was great.
So did you manage to catch the panel discussion around the Tech Vision?
I did. Actually, I had a question about that, if that's
Cool.
okay. Looking at the tech vision and understanding it myself, I'd like to get your take on it. Just what do you think, the tech vision is and what are we trying to do?
Yeah, we really put this together as a framework to try to align the industry around where we're focused, right? So where should CableLabs be focused? What are the areas that we should be researching and working in that's going to have the most benefit overall to the industry?
Yeah.
And so it started off with a bunch of conversations with the CTOs, trying to understand where they are now, where we think the market is, where the industry is, and trying to get a sense for what do they prioritize? Like, what do they care about? What are they interested in? And building up from that. And then looking at all the activity we had here at CableLabs and bringing that together into a framework that we could use, to have those conversations with them. And so that's really where it started. And then it just evolved, from there. Once we started getting the feedback and working with the teams, pulling together all the technologists here at CableLabs, it just started to build into, what you see now, which is this, three themes: the seamless connectivity, network platform evolution, the pervasive intelligence piece, and then all the focus areas within it. And so it really just becomes a way for us to communicate the areas that we're focused in, talk about our overall portfolio mix, prioritize the projects that we're focused on here at CableLabs, and connecting it to the teams and making sure that it aligns really well. And then making sure it takes advantage of what CableLabs does best, right? Which is provide that alignment for the industry, provide scale, help develop a really healthy vendor ecosystem. That's really what we're going after.
So how do you think it's going to benefit our members in the overall ecosystem? You just mentioned a little bit, but how do you think that benefit's going to really see itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's focus, right? It gives us focus on the areas that we think are going to have the highest impact to make our members more competitive. And so I feel like the tech vision helps us frame up, all right, what are the areas we really need to put our effort? I mean, you only have so many resources in a day, right? And so how are you going to focus those resources on the most impactful projects, right? And I think that's really what it's going to help with.
We're seeing a lot of market pressures from all over the place. I mean, you've seen it, I've seen it, and you have wireless operators wanting to get in our business. We're trying to get in the wireless operators' business. How do you see us differentiating our services to operate in this new space of this general global communications ecosystem?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's all about connectivity, right? People don't care how they're connecting. They don't think about the access network. They don't think about the underlying technologies like we do. And so I think we're best positioned to be that first point of connection for people. 80% of the traffic comes through the home, right? Even mobile traffic, 80% of that traffic is in the home. It's in a building. That's where we are. We control that entire experience, right? We own the gateway experience. We are delivering the connectivity to those homes. We have a world-class network to do that. We have the capacity to do it, high reliability. I mean, there's so many elements of our network that give us an advantage. So if we just keep doubling down on those things and investing in those things, I think we can create the best connectivity experience, not the cable experience, not your wired experience. It's just how do you connect, and I think we're the best position to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I agree 100%. And that's kind of the reason I came to CableLabs in the first place. So another thing that happened at Winter Conference that I heard a lot about, especially from the members, was Network as a Service, or NAS.
Yeah.
How's that going, and what are we doing in that space?
Yeah, we unveiled a lot of new stuff around NAS at the conference. For the first time, I saw that sort of recognition of understanding. Oh, okay, so that's what you mean when you talk about network as a service, right? And so what it is, it's about opening up capabilities from the network, right? So the capabilities that exist within the network and making those available so applications can take advantage of it. And we're working on a number of different fronts. So in one sense, it's enabling new types of services, right? So if you're, headed to a hotel or a vacation home, I want services to follow you, right? I want that network to be your network. I want your devices to just connect seamlessly. Well, we can do that through capabilities that are exposed through network as a service. So that's one use case we're working at, and we think that there's real revenue opportunity with some of these types of differentiated services. The other thing that we want to look at is exposing telemetry, right? So if I have an application that's having a problem on the network, it's not performing properly, right? How do I know it's the network or the application, right? Customers call in all the time, my Zoom's not working or this isn't working, and they think immediately it's the network, right? Well, what if we could share with the application providers some amount of telemetry, and they share telemetry they have with us, and we can both benefit, right? Sort of raise the quality of the experience for both the application providers and the network operators, that's another area where we think NAS has a ton of potential. I talked about, we've talked about this a little bit too, in terms of how do we know what the customer's experience really is, right? We talk about reliability, but how do you actually put something on that? Well, we've got an area that we're looking at called quality of outcome that really tries to say, all right, this is what the customer is experiencing right now on the network. And we can then make adjustments based on how we're rating that experience. And this comes out of APIs that we expose through Network as a Service. So there's just tons of potential. Once you get there and you start looking at the different types of services, our networks are very well suited to this as well. So because we control the gateway, and we've got full control over the access and transport networks, we can really expose a lot through Network as a Service that differentiates our capability.
That's great. I know as an end customer myself, I get really frustrated when I don't get what I want in terms of content and the network has no idea that I don't get what I want. So they're just lost. It's great to hear that we're doing things there.
Yeah, the two are separated from each other today, right? So how can we take advantage of more kind of cross-pollination between the two?
So I came from the wireless industry, as you know, and I don't really have a good understanding of HFC history and planned future. Is there a lot of life left in the HFC plant?
Yeah, tons of life. We've heard the predictions, the prognosticators over the years say, okay, well, this is kind of end for HFC. We need to be moving on to other technologies. First of all, the F in HFC is fiber, right? We talk about this all the time. It's predominantly a fiber network. Most of the bits are moving over fiber, right? So it is a state-of-the-art fiber network where the last mile is coax. And we know that network has a ton of capacity left in it, right? It's a highly reliable network. If you look at, take Vodafone Ziggo, for example, in the Netherlands, HFC network that competes day in, day out with multiple fiber overbuilt networks, right? We know HFC can be competitive, and it's the top-rated network in their markets. So we know HFC is a competitive product that has competitive capabilities, and we know there's tons of potential left in it, right? The teams upstairs are looking at ways to drive capacity well beyond where we are today, right? Drive up to higher frequencies, drive capacity beyond, say, 20 gigabits, 30 gigabits. We don't see a limit right now in terms of what we can do with the HFC plant. So we think there's a ton of life there. And we don't have to have all this capital outlay to deliver those types of services. We can be competitive with fiber and still, run a very efficient, cost-effective service for our customers. And so I think it's key. HFC is a key element of the overall portfolio. So I think there's a ton of legs still left in it. And then we're looking at other use cases, right? Other ways that we can use that plant. So once we do overbuild in a particular area for fiber, we want to look at, can we still use the HFC plant for other use cases? So I think it has life even beyond its current use case. But yeah, I think eventually, we're moving closer and closer to fiber. I think that's the inevitability, right?
What are we actually doing in the optical space right now in terms of research and next generation innovation?
Yeah, we get this question all the time. Like, what are you guys doing, right? You're the DOCSIS guys. We're doing a ton of that space, right? So we have the work we're doing in advanced optics. A lot of folks know about the work we've done with Coherent and CPON, and we're continuing to drive that. So what do you look at 100 gig PON? How are we going to drive that into the standards organizations, working with folks like ITU to look at the next generation of PON technologies. So we have teams that are working on that piece of it, right? And that's further out. Closer in, we've actually made some key hires over the last couple of years to bring more folks into the optical team to look at how can we improve interoperability. So we just launched 2 new working groups. We've got one that's focused on common provisioning for PON, common provisioning and management. Over a dozen members there, over a dozen vendors in that working group. Similarly, we're looking at the operations, right? How do we improve optical operations? Can we take what we did with proactive network maintenance, the P&M stuff for DOCSIS, and translate that over to optical and have a common way of looking at telemetry for the optical plant? And so we launched another working group there, looking at optical operations and maintenance. And again, large group of members participating there, large group of vendors really starting to get some momentum there. So 2 new working groups. And then on top of that, trying to drive common OMCI profiles, right? We think that interoperability is key. We want to have OLT, ONU interoperability, and we think common OMCI profiles are key to that. So we've got a team looking at it and driving that as well. So we've got a lot of sort of tactical work going on, long-term strategic work going on, and then of course there's the research that we do into advanced optics. We have a advanced optical lab here, Optical Center of Excellence, really trying to push the boundaries of what you can do on fiber. So quite a bit of investment there. I mean, we see it as a key element of our portfolio going forward, and continue to invest there. So
That's great. I didn't know that all that was going on.
Yeah.
What about the wireless? Like I mentioned at the very beginning, there's a lot of pressure coming on the market from even wireless, whether it's Wi-Fi or whether it's FWA or things. What are we doing in the wireless space right now that can be innovated that we're looking forward?
yeah, well, Wi-Fi has always been there as part of our portfolio. It's how our customers connect, right? So we've always been heavily involved in WFA, WBA, driving wireless, changes to the wireless standards. And that work is going to continue, right? We're still making significant investments in the Wi-Fi space, into Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8, and making sure we create the best sort of in-home experience, leveraging Wi-Fi and differentiated services over Wi-Fi. And then the telemetry stuff I talked about earlier. If you look at, understanding reliability on the Wi-Fi network and being able to create that great experience for customers in the home, we're continuing to invest there, and looking at things like seamless connectivity, right? So how do you move between the mobile network and the Wi-Fi network and not notice that glitchiness that you sometimes notice when you're pulling out of the driveway? We want to tackle that problem and help the industry tackle that problem. Probably more importantly, there is a lot of work going on in the mobile space that folks don't realize, right? So we're heavily involved in mobile. You know this very well, right? Your teams are heavily involved in 3GPP, in trying to drive key changes to the standards that are beneficial to our operators, right? And create the best experience for our customers. And so we've been making some pretty significant investments in the mobile space, bringing folks in that are mobile specialists, right? And understanding the evolution of 5G into 6G and being involved there. So we're actually helping to set that direction. So we've been increasing the investment there, similar to what we're doing on fiber, increasing the investment on mobile.
So it sounds like really we're getting to a point of true convergence, which has been talked about for decades in the industry, and we're actually heading in that direction. So you've obviously been in the industry for decades, and you've seen the growth and you've seen the change and things. If you open up your crystal ball, what do you think the industry is going to look like in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's always tough to be a prognosticator, right? And try to predict where things are going. I mean, the one thing that we know for sure is people want to connect and they don't want to think about the network. So there's going to be more and more of this expectation that it all just works. Everything works. You connect where you're at on whatever device you're at, and you don't want to have to think about how you're connecting. And so we're going to see more and more of that convergence of connectivity, and seeing our operators be able to offer that kind of seamless connectivity across different network types, different device types. We're seeing more and more usage of the network. We know there's going to be growth in the number of devices connecting to the network, right? So we're going to see that increase in how devices are connecting. And then we have to look at what's the impact of AI. Is AI going to create different traffic utilization patterns on our network, and what is that going to look like as we get more and more of these intelligent devices and connecting to our network, and what's that going to look like? So I think we're going to see continued increases in capacity, significant increases around reliability, getting more and more reliable, more and more understanding, of the network, more and more intelligence in the network, right? So we can respond more proactively to issues that we're seeing in the network. So it's just gonna be a smarter, more capable, more hidden network in some sense, right? So that the network fades into the background and you connect and do the things that you want to do, and you don't have to think about it. So I think that's where we're headed.
That's awesome. That's great. So one final question for you, if you don't mind. How do our members and vendors get involved in all this work we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, so we've always had this working group model, right? And the model at CableLabs is to bring members and vendors together. I mentioned the working groups around the optical space, right? 2 new working groups that we just launched. We've got working groups in all these areas that we've talked about. So we work with the security group, we've got work with the wireless team, we've got work with the network as a service group that's doing the work there. And so I would encourage folks to reach out, understand the areas that we're working in. Hopefully this framework helps a little bit to understand those areas, and then ask about what are the working groups, how can I get engaged, where are you guys at right now, where do you need contribution? We're constantly doing outreach to individual teams as well, right? Trying to get folks engaged in the working groups. So that's a key element. The other thing is just keep an eye on the communications that are coming out. We're starting to put out more and more blogs, technical reports, trying to speak at more events to really get the message out about the areas where we're engaging, right? And being very clear, right? This is how it all ties together. This is how it fits into the overall vision. And get engaged there. Talk to folks, ask questions, to look at the material that we're putting out there. and ask, how can we come engage with your teams? We do a lot of individual team engagement as well. So we'll do outreach to members and vendors. There's POCs that we do in the lab a lot of times with the vendor partners, So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can engage, whether it's through the working groups, through POCs, or just individual outreach. Talk to the folks here at CableLabs. They'll get you connected with the right folks that are working in the area that you're interested in. And most likely there's going to be something you can engage in. And so I encourage folks just to reach out to us and do that.
That's great. I appreciate the download here very much. It's very helpful for me.
No, I appreciate it, man. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Very exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks.